Hello, it's South Asian Heritage Month in UK. I'm here at Hertfordshire Constabulary. My name is Enoch, Kanagaraj. I'm the Chief Executive of One Vision Charity. The charity brings people together, communities together. We tackle health inequalities. We work with ethnic minorities, particularly with Black, African, Caribbean and Asian population who lives in Hertfordshire. I'm proud to serve in the Race and Inclusion Board in Hertfordshire. Today, I'm going to be meeting and talking to this wonderful human being I met quite a while now, named Kash Hussain. Kash is a superintendent of police. He joined the force 2007. He started from one end and he's grown up to the superintendent where he is. Like myself, and I'll be delighted you all to join and to listen to his stories. South Asian Heritage Month, the theme is Free to Be Me. We are celebrating our culture, our diversity in Hertfordshire. Welcome to watch. Hello Kash, I'm delighted to be a part of the South Asian Heritage Month celebration. And welcome you to the program. Kash, I know you are the Superintendent of Police in Hertfordshire Constabulary. It's probably a long way to go for you to think about your memories. I just want you to talk a little bit insight about your early life and your upbringing.
Okay, thank you for having me, and really pleased to be part of this month. I'm also pleased to be representing my community in this month. And so going back a long time, and it feels like a really long time ago, I grew up in a very diverse community in Bedfordshire. By diverse, I mean, in fact, it probably wasn't as diverse because everybody around me was either Asian, from Asian Muslim background, and actually it wasn't like most other towns and cities where you have other demographics. But actually, for me, growing up, I mainly stayed within my close community, very rarely left where I lived or left the country, apart from going back to Kashmir, where my family are from. My parents had obviously immigrated here. Some of my siblings were born in Kashmir. I was born in England. So it was really kind of a rich, diverse background. Our heritage was really strong in our household. Growing up in the school I went on, all the community around me were all from Asian backgrounds, the vast majority of them. Actually, one of my closest friends wasn't, and he was actually a minority within our school. It was really interesting about how he experienced being in his community. But I grew up with a very mixed but Asian cultural, strong heritage roots view of life. Growing up through my early years, my teens, up until I started working.
You always lived in Hertfordshire? Or?
No, I grew up in Bedfordshire.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I spent most of my life. Really, I still live in Bedfordshire. And it's a very interesting dynamic because it was my first job outside of Bedfordshire was in Hertfordshire. My first posting in policing was in St Albans.
Okay.
And that experience of growing up and living and being around diverse communities in Bedfordshire, and then having my first posting as a police officer in Hertfordshire, St Albans, was very different because suddenly the demographics around me have all changed. Really eye-opening for me. Very nerve-wracking, but actually, what's this community going to receive me like? But actually a really interesting experience for me.
So Kash, growing up as part of the South Asian Muslim community in life, yes. What were some key influences or experience that inspired you to join the police?
I think I was probably less surprised, and I almost expected that the values of our communities and our heritages match really well with what we try to do with policing. Do the right thing, take care of people, look out for one another, is very much what policing tries to do to help society progress. And I think as I grew up, I also liked problem solving. I liked to be part of the solution of something, and I liked what I didn't find when I was growing up was seeing many Asian police officers. and that kind of, I think that troubled me a little bit, and I wanted to be part of that change, and that encouraged me actually. You like problem solving, your values that we were brought up by our families, how in our culture, particularly I can speak for my own obviously, is the cultural values from your parents are quite heavily passed on to your children. It's a really strong influence on of your life, and that was passed on to me. And actually, a lot of those values match what we try to do in policing. Like I've said, try and help people do the right thing. If I take that, my drive to do problem solving, be part, see more Asian people in policing, rather than expecting it to happen, it's kind of for me to be part of that change, and hence I applied.
So I know you made that decision to join the police force, but how did your family and your community respond to that?
I think I was probably more worried about it than they were.
Okay.
Because I was worried about what people were going to think, because there was nobody in our whole, I'd say our whole, not only my own immediate family, but probably all the community around us. There was nobody in our kind of group who joined the police, or even knew anybody who was from an Asian heritage in the police. And I thought, well, what are people going to think? Are they going to think? Are they going to cut ties with me? These kind of things were just natural things in my head. But actually, when I approached the conversation, the concern wasn't about why are you going in the police in a negative way. That wasn't the case.
Yeah.
There was concern of actually, are you going to be accepted in the police?
Yeah.
That was there. That was natural because of the experiences they may have had when they first immigrated here, their own concerns, worries about what policing would be like. They kind of almost put that in my mind, and just be careful that you'll be accepted, and what you might experience from you there might be negative. So that it was more of a worry than it was, oh, don't join the police. That wasn't the case. It was just, you sure will you be accepted? And I think from those communities who've immigrated here, that's a natural concern about whether we'll be accepted, and if it's a family member, you want them to do well and be accepted where they work and be happy. So that's probably where those concerns came from.
I mean, being a South Asian, always our parents, their aspiration, the children to become a professional.
Yeah, doctors, IT is where my parents wanted me to go into IT.
Were they disappointed when you joined the police, or?
No, I think it was the worry about joining policing was because they don't know enough about it.
Okay.
They don't know what they do. They see what they see on TV maybe, but they don't know what. Whereas you can always think, what does somebody in IT do? What does a lawyer do? What does a doctor do? You have a good grasp of that. When they don't know what policing is about, the professionalism of policing is why they may not steer naturally to send, oh, actually you should consider this as a career. But actually I think for them they were kind of pushing me a little bit more about, okay, go and try it, see what happens. And they gave me the freedom to be able to go out and do that.
Being a South Asian, Pakistani origin, Muslim, how did you manage the cultural barriers proceeding with your career?
I think what you'll find is, like I said earlier on, a lot of the values of policing align very well with our cultures anyway, about how to behave in society, take care of people, do the right thing, don't steal, have integrity, be honest. They really aligned quite strongly with our faith and our traditions, our culture, and that made it easier. There were some concerns around, would you be afforded the ability to go and pray when you need to? And it was a balance there, because if you're in the middle of an operational dynamic incident, then you wouldn't be able to go and pray. But actually, our faith and our heritage accommodates that. Actually, there's a time and a place where you should go and do your prayers. And actually, the constabulary and policing, even from when I started, would have been accommodating to that. I was surprised at that, but there were actually, if you're not in the middle of an operational incident, and you need to go do something, go and do it. You'll find most police stations now, in fact all police stations in Hertfordshire have a faith room where you can go and pray if you need to. So there wasn't that almost battle of, oh, this is my faith or my role, or my values. It almost kind of just seemed to gel together, surprisingly.
I know you've done a lot of frontline policing. How did you enjoy it? Did you go home with some challenges, or you went, I've done a great job?
It's this job is rugged in terms of, it's not a very, you know what's going to happen every day. It's going to be calm waters every day, we are going to incidents where something's gone really wrong for somebody. Somebody's really worried about something, or someone's really hurt, someone's missing, or someone's someone needs safeguarding, someone feels vulnerable, and fortunately members of the public will find themselves in a situation like that once in every 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. As police officers, you go to that 4 or 5 times a day. You're experiencing almost that trauma all the time. But with that comes a really greater sense of satisfaction.
Yes.
I've made a difference to someone's life. I've helped them in a time of crisis for them. And not only have I done that once every 5 years for what they would experience, I've done that 4 or 5 times a day. When you catch a bad person doing a bad thing, that gives you a really good feeling. But there are some lows, because obviously you're also meeting society at their most vulnerable, sometimes at their worst, and you're dealing with them, and you do take some of that home with you. You see some really awful things sometimes that have happened, but actually your sense of responsibility and achievement when you've gone there and you've done the best that you can, and you go home and say, you know what, the people that I've dealt with today, I've done the best I can for them. There's a sense of satisfaction that I don't think you find in many roles that you can get from policing.
I know you mentioned at the beginning that very few Asian police and police officers. How did your colleagues supported you, when you joined the police? Did you find that you're lonely because of your minority force?
I think at the beginning, there were probably far less diverse officers and staff in the constabulary than there are now. And Hertfordshire Constabulary and policing nationally has gone on a long journey. With stuff like the Race Action Plan and other the diversity, equality and inclusion programs, that the representation has really increased. And by the very nature of me sitting here with the superintendent rank shows that that's not just at the bottom of the organisation. Going back to what the concerns around family, their view, would you just stay at the bottom of the organisation? Would you progress? But by the very nature of me being here as a superintendent, it's I'm the first Muslim, Kashmiri, Pakistani superintendent Hertfordshire Constabulary has ever had. If that itself is a progression, what it is. But I think the learning, the challenges are all what kind of. When you're a police officer, you deal with the operational stuff. But when you're a sergeant or an inspector, you're managing other people's response to that. So no matter which rank you go to, you get a sense of satisfaction as you progress. And you grow, you learn, you become more of a leader, you become more of a strategic or tactical thinker. And when I joined as a police officer, I didn't know what operational, tactical or strategic is. But in the time I've spent, I've learned these things, I've grown as an individual. So I think the role itself, our cultural values that you bring there, you align them all together. Actually, it's a recipe for success, and I've progressed fortunately very well in Hertfordshire Constabulary.
Being as a superintendent of police, what advice do you give to your similar background, whether from Muslim community or any South Asian community, about Hertfordshire Constabulary?
I would say, and I'll probably look back at to what my own feelings were at the time, is you are very afraid of what it might be like. And you feel you're maybe uniquely afraid of what it might be like. And the only way you or people in your community are going to find out what it's really like is if you put your step forward and go for it. And that's what I did, and it wasn't a comfortable journey. I was always worried about, am I going to be accepted? Am I going to, because I always feel, and I don't know if you've experienced this in your, I feel like I represent my community. I don't just represent myself as Kash, I represent my community, and if I do well, I feel like I'm showing my community in good light. And if I don't do well, I feel like I'll be letting my community down. And that was a bit of a challenge that I felt at the beginning, but I overcame that, and my advice to anybody would say, it's not comfortable, but you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Reach out into that space where you're like, you know what, I don't know, but as long as there are people in this organisation that are willing to show me and teach me, I'll be able to I'll make the effort, you teach me and I'm going to go and do it. That's all it takes.
United Kingdom is celebrating, last 2 months, the South Asian Heritage Month. You as a South Asian heritage person, how do you feel to celebrate your culture, commemorate and proud to share who you are?
Yeah, I feel extremely privileged to be able to represent my community in this space. If I look back to where our heritage is from, my parents emigrated here. If I think back with my grandfather in Kashmir, have ever imagined that his grandson would be a superintendent in the United Kingdom in the police force and be operationally competent in that role, you know, I feel proud that whatever sacrifices those people in our heritage have made in the past, that I've done them proud, and the other people in our community. So I'm really grateful about the events that are happening across the UK and in Hertfordshire for South Asian heritage. But personally, I feel a sense of pride that I hope I'm representing our community well.
I know, Kash, you're amazing. You do a lot of work with underrepresented communities, particularly with people with poor health or with addictions, or what is your message to those communities to encourage themselves, to do a good life and to work with communities and young people who are actually uncertainty about their life? What, as a superintendent, what is your message would be?
I think you've kind of probably hit the answer in your question there, because I remember when I was young, and I'll give you an example of when I was looking for work experience. So when I was looking for work experience when I was younger, the type of work experience I was being offered was in a local takeaway or here within my own community. And if I wanted to kind of expand my growth and the growth of the people around me, I needed to come away from that and reach out to other bodies and other areas and say, have you got any other opportunities for me? And if it was somebody who's struggling with, whether it's health, mental health, addiction, exploitation, criminal exploitation, anything, you have to sometimes reach out of your community to the right body and say, we just need a bit of help or advice. This is what's happening. What should we do? And what you'll find, and I've always found, when you reach out, people don't ignore you. They'll say, actually, we're here to help, tell us what you need. And sometimes it's that first step, but it doesn't have to be the person experiencing the issue themselves. It could be somebody around them to say, you know what, could you just put a call into this person and say, is everything okay, can we help? And that might be enough to just get those. But it's almost a two-way street. What we also need is our statutory bodies, our health, local authorities, county council, police, fire, reaching out proactively into those communities, making themselves available and normalise interaction. Because if it's normal, you'll be prepared to ask that question. Whereas if it's unusual for a certain agency or public body or NGO to be in your community, you'd probably be a bit standoffish. So if they reach out and they make themselves available, make it business as usual, you'll find this interaction is far easier. So proactivity from the organisations, but the courage for those communities to kind of reach out and say, we just need a bit of advice, can you help? And more often than not, you'll find out, isn't it?
Kash, thank you so much. I know you're very busy with your day-to-day job, and you took time to come out and talk during the South Asian Heritage Month. And I'm sure that a number of people will be coming forward to join the police, and we're all here to willing to support them and everything. And thank you for your wonderful story you shared with us, and the journey continues.
Thank you for having me.